January 2008. Patrick Swayze gets a stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosis. A diagnosis that often comes with a very short timeline, even with treatment. He's 55 years old. Most people would stop working and spend time with family. Patrick keeps filming 14-hour days on a TV series while chemotherapy destroys him. Why? Because his ranch, the place he built to escape Hollywood, is costing over $500,000 annually just to operate. And his wife Lisa is making decisions that look brutal, not stopping him from working. By the end of this video, you'll understand 3 things nobody talks about. Why the ranch became a financial machine that never stops eating money. Why the decisions that looked cruel were actually something else entirely. And why this property explains Patrick's final years better than his fame ever could. But here's the real question. Was this escape saving him or slowly burying him? Because the ending flips the villain in this story, and it might not be who you think. Picture this. It's 5 a.m. California desert. San Fernando Valley, near the Santa Susana Mountains. The sun isn't up yet, but you're already awake because over 20 horses need feeding. Every single day. No days off. No vacations. You walk to the stables. This isn't some hobby setup. This is professional infrastructure. 5 acres of desert that get maybe 15 inches of rain per year, which means systems running constantly. Private well pumping water. A backup generator because when you're responsible for living animals, losing power is a crisis, not an inconvenience. This isn't a home. It's a living system. Miss one morning, and you don't just lose money, you risk lives. It looks peaceful from the outside. It's not. It's responsibility on a timer. Hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in operating costs. Staff, feed, farrier service, veterinary care, maintenance, insurance, property taxes. The bills never stop. The ranch didn't cost money once. It cost money every morning. And Patrick bought this place in 1984, right when he was about to become impossible to escape. To understand why Patrick bought this financial black hole, you need to understand where he came from. Born August 18, 1952 in Houston, Texas. His mother Patsy ran a dance school. His father Jesse Wayne was an engineer and a cowboy. 2 completely different worlds colliding in one household. Patsy started training Patrick in classical ballet at age 3. 5 hours of practice daily. Relentless discipline. In 1960s Texas, that made you a target. Boys who danced ballet got destroyed. Beaten up constantly in school. Humiliated in locker rooms. Called names that stuck like scars. His father saw what was happening. Taught him to fight back. How to throw a punch. How to take one. How to survive in a world that wanted to break him for being different. So Patrick grew up split down the middle. Disciplined artist on one side, who understood beauty and precision. Tough Texas survival mode on the other, who knew violence was sometimes the only language bullies understood. 2 identities at war inside one person. Neither one complete without the other. Neither one able to exist peacefully with the other. His mother was brilliant, genuinely talented, but she was also controlling in ways that damaged him. She criticized him publicly during rehearsals, made examples of him in front of other students. Most rehearsals ended with Patrick feeling smaller, less than, not good enough. But occasionally, rarely, she'd show pride. That flash of approval in her eyes. That momentary satisfaction that said you did well. That rare glimpse became a drug more powerful than anything he'd encounter later. He spent his entire life chasing it, seeking approval from people who withheld it, needing validation from those least likely to give it. By his 20s, Patrick moved to New York for Broadway, worked in shows like Grease and Good Time Charlie. The work paid rent, kept him alive, but it didn't feed the deeper hunger, the need to create something meaningful, to be recognized as an artist, not just a performer. During this time, he watched what happened to dancers, saw their careers peak at 25 and end at 35 when bodies no longer cooperated. Watched talented people become products, commodities, things to be bought and sold and used up and discarded. He understood something early that most people learn too late. Hollywood has a cycle. Discovery first. They find you, tell you you're special, make you believe you're different from all the others who came before. Then exploitation. They work you constantly. Every interview, every photo shoot, every appearance. You become the product. Patrick Swayze, the person, stops mattering. Only Patrick Swayze, the brand, matters. Then extraction. They squeeze every last dollar from you. Every last ounce of energy. Every last piece of yourself you're willing to sell. And finally, discard. When you're no longer profitable, no longer young enough, no longer relevant enough, they move on to the next one. And you're left wondering who you were before they got hold of you. In 1983, he got a role in The Outsiders directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Small part. But Hollywood noticed something. That combination of intensity and vulnerability. Masculine energy that wasn't threatening. Physical presence that translated through cameras in ways casting directors couldn't quite explain but knew was valuable. He knew what was coming next. Stardom. Real stardom. The kind that changes everything. Then the machine would start. Then the extraction would begin. Then the expiration date would be set. Fame meant losing control of everything. Which roles he got offered. How films were edited. Which takes they used. What journalists asked in interviews. How photographers posed him for magazine covers. What narrative they built around him. In Hollywood, Patrick Swayze the person didn't exist. Only the product. The sex symbol. The romantic lead. The brand that sold tickets and moved merchandise and generated revenue. The ranch was different. On 5 acres of desert at 5 in the morning feeding horses, nobody cared who you were. Horses don't ask for autographs. Don't care about box office numbers. Don't judge you for your last film's reviews. There, Patrick Swayze the celebrity could disappear completely. Only Pat existed. A guy from Texas who loved horses and valued silence more than applause. If you were famous, would you buy peace? Or is peace just another addiction? But control has a price. And this place charged him every single day. Let's talk about what this dream actually costs to maintain. Think of the ranch as a machine with 3 main parts, each one consuming money constantly. First, labor and staff. You can't manage over 20 horses alone. It's physically impossible. One person can't feed them all, clean the stalls, maintain the property, handle emergencies, and still have time to actually live. Patrick hired full-time help. Stable manager who understood horses, who knew when something was wrong before it became critical. Maintenance crew for the property. 5 acres don't take care of themselves. Fences need repair. Irrigation systems break. Structures deteriorate in harsh desert climate. Veterinarian on retainer. Because with 20 horses, waiting for an emergency is too late. You need someone who knows the animals, who can spot problems early. Based on typical equestrian operating costs in California during the 1990s, staff expenses could easily reach 6 figures annually. Salaries, benefits, insurance, taxes, all the hidden costs of employing people legally. Second, animal care. This is where the numbers get brutal. Over 20 horses eating hay daily. Not just a little hay. Massive quantities. Horses are grazing animals. They need constant access to food or their digestive systems fail. Thousands per month just in feed. And that's when hay prices are normal. During drought years, which California has frequently, prices spike. Supply becomes limited. You pay whatever it costs because the alternative is watching your animals starve. Then farrier service every few weeks. Horses' hooves grow constantly. Without regular trimming and new shoes, they develop painful conditions. Lameness, infections, problems that can permanently damage an animal. Veterinary care beyond the retainer. Annual vaccines for every horse. Deworming protocols. Dental work. Emergency treatments. One colic episode can cost thousands in a single night. This isn't optional care. This is basic maintenance. The minimum required to keep animals healthy and alive. Third, infrastructure and overhead. 5 acres of irrigated desert. The desert wants to be desert. You're forcing it to be something else. That takes constant work and constant money. Electrical costs for pumping water. Running systems. Keeping lights on. Powering ventilation. The electricity bill isn't like a house. It's like a small business. Structural maintenance on everything. Roofs that take brutal sun and occasional heavy rain. Wooden structures that dry out and crack. Metal that corrodes. Concrete that shifts in earthquakes. Property insurance plus liability coverage. You have 20 large animals on your property. Animals that can kick, bite, throw riders. You need insurance that covers all of that. And insurance companies charge accordingly. Property taxes that kept climbing year after year. As California property values increased, so did tax bills. What started as $15,000 annually eventually hit $35,000. Owners of similar facilities describe it as a 6-figure annual burn. Not investment. Burn. Money that goes out and never comes back. Estimates suggest the ranch cost around $350,000 annually during Patrick's peak years. By 2008, over $500,000 annually. The ranch didn't cost money once. It cost money every morning, every single day, without exception. At his peak, he could afford it. Then Hollywood changed the rules. 1987. Dirty Dancing makes Patrick a superstar. Not just successful, a cultural phenomenon. The film cost $3 million to make, earned over $200 million worldwide. Patrick becomes the guy every studio wants. The name that guarantees opening weekend numbers. By 1990, Ghost confirms it. The film grosses over $500 million globally. Patrick is one of the highest-paid actors in the world. The ranch costs are high, but manageable. Money flows in from films and residual checks that arrive like clockwork every quarter. For a few years, the math works. He's earning millions per film. The ranch costs a few $100,000 annually. There's margin. There's breathing room. There's the illusion of sustainability. Then he starts aging in Hollywood years. By 1995, Patrick is 43. In Hollywood, that's old for a romantic lead. Studios are already looking for the next generation. Brad Pitt is 31 and starring in Seven. George Clooney is emerging from ER into film roles. The industry has moved on to younger faces. The offers change fast, dramatically. No more 8-figure deals for leading man roles. Now it's 7 figures for supporting parts. Then 6 figures for projects that go straight to video. The decline isn't gradual. It's steep and merciless. Patrick turns down a lot of work during this period. He has standards, real standards, trained since childhood in discipline and the pursuit of excellence. Won't do garbage just for a paycheck. Won't compromise his artistic integrity for easy money. He's a dancer, an artist, someone who understands the difference between craft and commerce, between creating something meaningful and just cashing checks. But here's the brutal problem. Artistic standards don't pay for hay. Standards don't cover farrier bills. Integrity doesn't fund veterinary emergencies. The ranch costs stay fixed. $350,000 annually whether he works or not. Whether the roles are good or not. Whether he's starring or supporting or not working at all. He's caught in a trap he built himself. To maintain the escape from Hollywood, he has to stay in Hollywood. To afford the place where Patrick Swayze doesn't exist, he has to keep being Patrick Swayze the product. To buy a few hours of peace daily, he has to sell himself the rest of the time. The thing that was supposed to free him became the thing that enslaved him. Would you take roles you hate to fund the one place you feel normal? By 2000, Patrick is 48. Offers are genuinely scarce. The phone stops ringing as often. His agent has fewer scripts to send. The industry has categorized him as past his prime. No longer bankable. No longer worth the investment. He tries television later on. Long shoots. Brutal schedules. 14 hours daily. 5 days weekly. 9 months yearly. Less freedom than film. Less leverage in negotiations. Less respect from an industry that still sees TV as lesser than cinema. He's excellent in it. Still brings intensity and commitment to every scene. But TV doesn't pay like movies. And the schedule leaves no time for the ranch. He has to hire more help. Costs keep rising. Income plateaus or declines. The margin that existed in the 90s has disappeared completely. Now he's running to stay in place. Working constantly just to break even. And then something personal collapses. Something that pushes him deeper into the ranch as the only place that makes sense. 1997. Patrick's mother Patsy dies from a heart attack. Sudden. Unexpected. The woman who formed him. Who drove him. Who criticized him relentlessly but also gave him everything he knew about discipline and craft. Her death devastates him in ways he can't articulate. Can't process. Can't escape. Because their relationship was complicated. She damaged him. Made him feel inadequate. Instilled insecurities that never healed. But she also made him who he was. Gave him the tools to succeed. The discipline that separated professionals from amateurs. Losing her means losing the person whose approval he'd been chasing his entire life. And now he'll never get it. Never hear her say she was proud. Never receive the validation he needed since he was 3 years old standing in her studio. The drinking that was always there, Texas heritage and Hollywood set culture, becomes something darker during this period. Self-medication. A way to numb pain that has no other outlet. Alcohol becomes a crutch. Then a necessity. Then a problem he won't acknowledge. His body is also failing in ways that can't be ignored anymore. Knees destroyed from decades of dance and performing his own stunts. Herniated discs in his back from years of physical punishment. Chronic pain that wakes him at 3 in the morning. pain that never completely goes away, pain that affects every movement. Prescriptions become too easy to refill in Hollywood's permissive medical culture. Doctors willing to write scripts. Pharmacies that don't ask questions. A system designed to keep people functional, not healthy. People close to them have described moments like this. Late at night, in the stables, trying to fix something that didn't need fixing, repairing fences that weren't broken, organizing tack that was already organized, working obsessively on ranch repairs as if physical labor could somehow drown out emotional anguish. The ranch was supposed to be peace, supposed to be the place where he could breathe, where he could exist as just Pat without the pressure of being Patrick Swayze. But by the late 1990s, it's becoming something else. Another source of stress, another obligation, another thing demanding pieces of him he doesn't have left to give. Because maintaining peace is expensive. Maintaining escape requires constant work. The bills never stop. The horses always need feeding. The systems always need maintenance. The staff always need payment. Paradise has become a second job, a job that pays nothing and costs everything. By 1998, the financial margins are tightening visibly. Annual income from acting, around $1.2 million. 2 minor films plus residuals from his big hits. Ranch operation costs, $400,000. Personal expenses, taxes, agents, managers, another $500,000. Still technically breaking even. Still making it work on paper. But barely. The margin for error has disappeared. One bad year. One injury. One canceled project. And the whole structure collapses. By the late 2000s, the ranch isn't peace anymore. It's obligation wearing a mask of freedom. Then January 2008 arrives. Patrick gets diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. A diagnosis that often comes with a very short timeline, even with aggressive treatment. He's 55 years old, and the financial reality is brutal. The ranch is costing over $500,000 annually. The 2008 financial crash hits his investments hard. Residuals soften, markets drop, and the ranch bills stay the same. His body is shutting down. His income is uncertain. His expenses are fixed and massive. Now he has 2 options. Let the ranch die with him. Watch everything he built get sold off and bulldozed. Or find a way to make it sustainable. And neither option is dignified. This is where Lisa Nemi becomes the central figure. She's not some decorative Hollywood wife. She's a dancer, actress, director, writer. And when Patrick gets his diagnosis, she becomes a crisis manager. Depending on how you see it, Lisa becomes the hero of this story or the villain. First move is hiring a new accountant who specializes in estate situations. Complete financial audit. Every expense questioned. Every contract examined. She makes cuts. The full-time stable manager gets replaced with part-time help plus veterinary students who work for experience. Reportedly saves around $40,000 annually. She simplifies the landscaping. Cuts irrigated areas in half. Eliminates watering in non-essential zones. Lets the desert reclaim territory. Saves money on water and maintenance. Renegotiates insurance. Consolidates policies. Increases deductibles to lower premiums. Every dollar matters now. But the big decision, the controversial one, involves the horses. 20 horses are financially unsustainable. Lisa sells some. Donates others to rescue organizations. Relocates the rest. By some accounts, it broke him. But the math is clear. They keep 10 of his personal favorites. Estimates suggest this single decision saves over $100,000 annually in feed, farrier service, and veterinary costs. If you were Lisa, do you keep the horses because it's his identity, or sell them to stop the bleeding? But the most controversial part wasn't the horses. It was the work. Patrick keeps working, despite stage 4 cancer. Despite chemotherapy that's destroying his body from the inside. He continues filming. 14-hour days while literally dying. This is where the story gets controversial, where people split into camps, where there's no easy answer. Some people say Lisa should have stopped it, that supporting a dying man working is cruel, exploitative, that she valued the ranch over his health, that she should have sold everything immediately. Let him rest. Let him have peace in his final months. That she chose money over mercy. Others see it completely differently. Patrick needed purpose more than rest, needed identity more than comfort. The ranch wasn't just property to him. It was who he was. It was the only place where he could be himself. Taking away his work. Taking away the ranch. Taking away his ability to provide and maintain and control. That would have been taking away his will to live. That would have killed him faster than cancer. Lisa's response in interviews after his death was direct, unflinching. Patrick needed to work more than he needed to rest. Taking away his purpose would have killed him faster than the disease. Letting him stop would have been letting him give up. And Patrick didn't know how to give up. One side says let him rest. Give him comfort. Protect him from himself if necessary. The other says take away his purpose and you take away his will. Let him die as himself, not as a patient. Which one is mercy? It's easy to judge from the outside. Easy to say what someone else should have done. But Lisa was there, living it, watching him deteriorate, making impossible choices every day. She knew him, knew what he needed, knew that Patrick Swayze without work, without the ranch, without purpose, wasn't Patrick Swayze at all. Was just a body waiting to die. Maybe letting him work was cruel. Or maybe forcing him to stop would have been crueler. Do you believe work gives people life or steals it when they're sick? Because the answer matters. It reveals how we think about terminal illness, about dignity, about what makes life worth living in the final stretch. Is dignity found in rest and comfort? Or is dignity found in purpose and autonomy? In choosing your own path, even when that path is difficult? Patrick died September 14, 2009. He lasted 20 months after diagnosis. Much longer than typical for stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Much longer than doctors expected. Maybe the work extended his life. Maybe the purpose gave him something to fight for. Maybe dying on his feet was better than dying in bed. Or maybe it just made the end harder. More painful. More exhausting. We'll never know for sure. His final days were spent at the ranch. In his bedroom, with windows facing the stables. Watching the horses he loved. Lisa beside him. The place he built to escape became the place he died. Then he's gone. And the ranch still demands an answer. Patrick's death doesn't end the story. It just changes the question. The ranch is still there. Still costing money daily. Still demanding decisions. Now Lisa faces a choice alone. Sell immediately and walk away. Take the $3 million plus that the property is worth. Pay off any remaining debts. Move on with her life. Start fresh somewhere else. That's the logical move. The practical move. The move most financial advisors would recommend. Or try to preserve what the place meant somehow. Try to honor what Patrick built. But preserving it means finding a way to stop the bleeding. Finding a way to make it sustainable. Some details are private, and exact numbers vary across reports. But the pattern is consistent. Lisa looked for ways to reduce costs, preserve meaning, and eventually let go. She didn't keep the ranch exactly as Patrick left it. That would have been impossible financially. Instead, she transformed it into something sustainable for a transition period. She allowed limited documentary access. Media crews and journalists who wanted to tell Patrick's story could film at the ranch for fees. Maybe $50,000 annually. It helped cover some operational costs. More importantly, it kept Patrick's story alive. Kept people remembering him as more than just the Dirty Dancing guy. She wrote a best-selling memoir called The Time of My Life, published in 2011. Honest book. Painful book. The book generated substantial royalties in its first year. Part of that money went to ranch maintenance. She partnered with horse rescue organizations. The ranch became a temporary sanctuary for rescued horses. Horses that had been abused or neglected and needed a safe place to recover. Organizations covered feeding costs, veterinary costs, daily care costs. Lisa provided the space and facilities. Win-win arrangement. Except it still wasn't sustainable forever. She also hosted small private charity events. Once or twice per year. Riding clinics for disabled kids. Fundraisers for pancreatic cancer research in Patrick's name. She didn't charge fees for these events. But they generated donations from attendees. Generated connections with wealthy people who cared about these causes. But Lisa also understood something Patrick never fully accepted. The ranch was bigger than both of them. Keeping it forever would be trying to freeze time. Not loving, just holding on. And here's where the public story and the private story don't match. In 2014, 5 years after Patrick's death, Lisa sold the ranch. Sale price was $3.3 million. The buyers were an anonymous couple from Los Angeles. Not celebrities, just people who loved horses. They promised to maintain the stables and respect what the place represented. Lisa used money from the sale and book to support causes connected to pancreatic cancer research and dance education. Funds have gone toward scholarships for young dancers from low-income families. Multiple pancreatic cancer research initiatives have received support. The ranch still exists as of 2026. Current owners have kept it completely private. No tours, no social media presence. They maintained the original spirit. It remains a refuge, not a spectacle. Patrick's model, the functional celebrity ranch focused on privacy and self-sufficiency rather than showing off, has been replicated. Other actors have created similar properties. His early adoption of water conservation and sustainable desert practices became standard in California. So did the ranch save him or trap him? Here's what Patrick Swayze's ranch actually tells us. What it reveals about fame and escape and the price of trying to be human in an industry designed to turn you into a product. Fame isn't a costume you can take off when you get home. It's not a role you play and then leave at the studio. Fame is a condition, a permanent alteration of how you exist in the world, how people see you, how you see yourself. The ranch cost approximately $5 million over 30 years when you add up purchase price, construction, improvements, and operational expenses. For that money, Patrick could have bought safer investments. Real estate in markets that appreciated significantly, stocks that generated dividends, bonds that provided passive income. But the ranch was never about money, never about financial returns. It was medication, a treatment for a condition that had no other cure. The escape became a fixed-cost cage. To maintain the place where Patrick Swayze the celebrity could disappear, he had to keep being Patrick Swayze the product. To afford a few hours daily of not being sold, he had to keep selling himself the rest of the time. Think about that. The very thing he built to escape the machine required him to feed the machine constantly. Freedom cost him his freedom. Peace cost him his peace. Lisa's decisions after his diagnosis, the brutal cuts, the horse sales, supporting his choice to keep working, those weren't cruel. They were understanding. She knew what Patrick needed wasn't rest. It was purpose. Purpose versus rest. Identity versus comfort. She chose to let him die as himself rather than preserve his body at the cost of his soul. The real cost of the ranch wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in impossible choices. Work when you should rest. Sell animals you love. Accept help when you've built your entire identity on independence. Watch your escape become another obligation. Watch your freedom become another job. But Patrick got what he paid for. This is important to understand. He got exactly what he wanted, even if what he wanted was impossible to maintain. 20 years of fragmented peace. Mornings feeding horses where nobody recognized him. Where he could just be Pat. Nights under desert stars where Hollywood didn't matter. Where box office numbers and reviews and career trajectories were irrelevant. He got to die in his own bed. In the place he built. Watching his horses. Held by someone who understood him completely. He got dignity in the struggle. He got to be a person, not just a product, even if only for a few hours each day. The ranch didn't save Patrick Swayze, but it didn't destroy him either. It gave him something worth having, something worth dying for. Moments of being real in a life of performance. Small pockets of authenticity in an existence built on pretense. A place where the person could exist separate from the product. Where Pat could exist separate from Patrick Swayze. He built the ranch to escape being a product, but the ranch demanded he keep selling himself to afford it. That's the paradox. That's the trap. That's the price of trying to buy freedom when you're already owned by an industry. So I'll ask you one last time. Was it his escape or his cage? And was Lisa's so-called cruelty actually mercy? Or was it control dressed up as love? Maybe it was both. Maybe those things aren't opposites. Maybe that's the point. Sometimes the place that keeps you alive is also the place that won't let you stop. And maybe that's not a contradiction. Maybe that's just what survival looks like when you're trying to be human in a machine designed to make you a product. Maybe expensive medication is better than no medication at all. Maybe fragmented peace is better than no peace. Maybe a few hours of being real is worth a lifetime of selling yourself. Or maybe it's all just a beautiful, expensive, tragic mistake. An illusion of control in a life where control was never possible. A dream that cost more than it was worth, but was still worth everything. Patrick Swayze's ranch tells us that escape is expensive, that freedom costs more than most people can afford, that trying to be normal when you're famous might be the most expensive thing you can attempt. But it also tells us that some people try anyway, that some prices are worth paying even when you know they'll bankrupt you, that dignity matters even when it costs everything, that being a person matters even when it's easier to just be a product. The ranch was Patrick's choice, his trap, his escape, his cage, his freedom, his burden, his peace, all of it, simultaneously, paradoxically, impossibly. And in the end, he paid for it. Every dollar, every sacrifice, every impossible choice. Because the alternative was worse. The alternative was disappearing completely into the product. Never being Pat again. Only ever being Patrick Swayze the celebrity. That was unacceptable to him. So he paid the price. And the price was everything.